Vietnamese shaking beef might sound like a funny name, but the dish itself is simple and delicious. So let's get to the ingredients. For the marinade for this dish, we're going to need 1/2 teaspoon of salt and pepper, 1 teaspoon of fish sauce, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, and 1 teaspoon of oil, 3 small garlic cloves chopped, and 1/2 pound of beef cut into about 3/4 inch cubes. In this case, we used sirloin. Mix all the ingredients with the beef. Let it marinate on the counter for 15-20 minutes. For the sauce, we will need 1 teaspoon of fish sauce, 1 teaspoon of hoisin sauce, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, 1 teaspoon of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt and pepper, 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, and 1/2 cup of water. For the rest of the dish, we're going to need some thinly sliced onions, some thinly sliced tomatoes, and some greens. Typically, this dish is served with watercress. Couldn't get a hold of any watercress today, so we used a spinach baby spring mix. Turn your heat on high and get your pan really hot. Once your pan is hot, you can add your meat. You don't have to add any oil to the pan because there was oil in the marinade. Spread the meat into one layer and allow it to cook. You can see how hot that pan was. That piece had only been on the one side for 15 seconds. Allow the meat to cook for 30 seconds. So this dish is called shaking beef. I'm not 100% sure why it's called that, but I do have a theory. The French had a huge influence on the culture of Vietnam, and the French word sauté literally means to jump. So when you saute something in a pan, you're jumping it in the pan. You're moving it around. After about 30 seconds, it's time to shake the pan. So just go ahead and shake your pan. It'll loosen the meat up if any's sticking on the bottom. It'll also pick up some of that fond on the bottom. Just keep the meat moving for a minute. Personally, I think that somewhere lost in translation, it went from sauteing to shaking, but I could be wrong. It doesn't really matter because it's fun either way. So get your meat back in one layer. Then allow everything to sit for about 10 seconds. At this point, you can throw in the onions. Just mix them around a little bit to get them coated with any oil that may be on the pan, and just toss them around with the beef. Let the onions cook for 1 minute. At the end of 1 minute, you can go ahead and add the brown sugar in. Give that about 10-15 seconds to kind of heat up and start to melt, and then you can add your sauce in. You can see how hot your pan was by the fact that that sauce started bubbling right away. Now you can add the salt and pepper and stir everything around. This is also the time you're going to determine whether or not you're going to need to add the water or the cornstarch to either thin your sauce out or to thicken it. At this point, our sauce was practically perfect. Just allowed it to cook for another minute. As you can see how thick our sauce has become. And now that you've cooked it, it's time to serve it, eat it, and enjoy it. And here's your final dish. As I said before, it is traditionally served with watercress, but I didn't have any watercress, so I did serve it with a different variety of greens. Now let's see how it tastes. You can see that the meat is tender and juicy, and it tastes really good. The sauce has a deep, rich flavor to it. The greens are just wilting under the heat of the meat. It's a really good contrast. This has a really good flavor, and it's super simple to make. Thank you for watching. Please check out our next video so we can continue our culinary journey together.